Hello, welcome to Pensions in 10 with me, David Brooks, all on my own again. Where is everybody? I think they're all a bit busy. School holidays, everything else, but on we go. Also, last time I recorded one of these, I did have a little bit of a mental freeze. I just come off holiday, and there is a blooper reel out there, and I'm quite glad it didn't get out because it was a bit embarrassing. I'm feeling a bit more on it now. I'm actually recording this on a Friday for various reasons, so Friday afternoon of my first full week back after holiday. It's been a bit of a quiet one, I think, in the big scheme of things. So I'm hoping this Pensions in 10 will be within the time limit for a change. Thank you for those of you that watch and get to the end, if you do. Why wouldn't you? I don't know. So I think the first big thing to note is following Andy Burnham's ascension to Prime Minister, that his decision has been to retain Torsten Bell as our pensions minister. So I will offer my congratulations to Torsten. Whether he feels that way, I don't know. I assume he does. A lot to do. He did set out that roadmap the week before. I wondered and pondered whether that was in a way sort of setting up and saying, look at what I've achieved, and perhaps somebody else could take this from here. But it looks like that Torsten will be bringing the roadmap through for the next few months, years, who knows? It's politics, isn't it? So Torsten's still there, so that's great news. And the other significant person in the world of pensions that perhaps we should worry about is our new Chancellor. So John Healey is our new Chancellor. And so one of the first things that our new Chancellor has been talking about is has a sort of a tangential impact on pensions and the pensions world, is around the taxation of state pensions. So he's been saying that if someone's purely on the state pension with no other pension income, then they wouldn't pay income tax on that. So this is a potential possibility from April, depending on what it may happen, April next year, depending on what may happen between now and then. That if the triple lock continues to kick in as it's expected to, then for the first time, the state pension would be higher than the personal tax allowance that's available. And so they're saying that we wouldn't tax people in those circumstances. What they'll do to fix it, I don't know. Either have a pensioners only tax allowance, or have some kind of credits thing coming back in, or there must be some way they can do it behind the scenes. It's a bit complicated, I suppose. And I can see why they'd say it, get some nice headlines and everything else. And it does seem a bit odd when you're giving somebody a benefit to then tax it and take some of it back. But it does seem to not quite fit the policy purpose. But yeah, I mean, getting on to the other things I'm going to talk about are kind of big picture things. There haven't been so many smaller areas to bring to your attention. I will mention one thing if I remember at the end. It's just popped in my head, so if I remember, I will mention it. So the thing that one of the things I read this week that I thought was quite interesting was from the PPI, the Pensions Policy Institute, who do great research work, and they were doing looking into the impacts of auto-enrolment and potential pensions changes on low earners. And for me, this is a really important area that we need to think about when we're looking at pensions policy changes. In particular, when you're looking at adequacy and affordability, the two big A's that kind of dominate the conversation: how much people afford to put in, but how much they need to put in to get the right sort of pension at the end. And one of the quick answers that a lot of people will give will be save more, put more money in, get a bigger pension. But for some people, especially at the lower earner end, and especially if you're going to be a lower earner for a significant part of your working life, actually saving for a pension, okay, that's great in a way. You'll have a pot of money for you at the end, but when do you need that money? Do you need it more now for better financial resilience and quality of life now, or is it better to have something in the future when the replacement rate, and we talked about the replacement rates quite a few times on these kind of things, but the replacement rate provided by the state pension and any other benefits that person might be entitled to might be better compared to their salary, over their working life, or their salary towards the end, especially, to actually give them a decent income replacement. And so actually saving for a pension is a detriment. And it feels a sort of lack of clarity around what our pensions policy is trying to do, especially auto-enrolment, because auto-enrolment as well had a couple of, when it was put in place, had a couple of initial sort of breaks and triggers to make sure that we weren't necessarily putting people into pensions where they had low incomes because of the potential impact on other benefits and their immediate lifestyles. But these have been frozen. So there's an earnings trigger which has been frozen since 2014 at £10,000, and there's a low earnings limit that's been frozen at £6,240 since 2021. And so, is that right? there doesn't seem, it's the thing, this stuff seems to just be happening on the hoof. Pensions decisions are being made. Does that fit the policy objective auto-enrollment when it first came around? I don't know. Don't think so. It doesn't feel like it is. And so, and when we're looking to reform, pensions policy and looking to reform the pension system so it's working for most people, how are we going to do that? How are we going to do that through auto-enrollment? How do we increase contributions without the short-term hit on people? How do you make sure that it's targeting the right people? Now, we know the Pensions Commission, too, is going to look at some of this and the way people are falling between the cracks. So some of the advantages of these earnings triggers and the lower earnings limits being frozen is that people who might be in part-time employment, multiple jobs, then they might be falling into it more. Maybe not. So that could be a plus, it could be a minus. But it feels like, again, we just need to make sure, have a bit of stock take and make sure that the policy that we've created is actually doing what we want it to do. And if we want to do something different, then we need to make that change. And this is supported a little bit by something that I've not seen reported on very much, but the Work and Pensions Select Committee, chaired by Debbie Abrahams, has been talking about the transition to state retirement and sort of state pension age, so the increasing state pension age to 67, and then onwards discussions around increasing it to 68. And they're saying that the government needs to do a lot more thinking around these increases in state pension age. I think, yes, as a means to save money, and we'll come back to that maybe in a little second, but save money from an overarching perspective, having a higher state pension age means that you're paying state pension to potentially fewer people, but also for a shorter period of time, saving billions potentially. But it does create a pinch point for people that are working. Obviously, now their working age benefits are going to be X and be designed in one way, and then they'll have state pension benefits which will kick in at their state pension age. And we have this period, especially the period as people in the lead up to their reaching their state pension age, people are unable to work, and there's growing statistics showing that more and more people are struggling to work through health reasons, caring reasons, but also just being unable to get a job because people don't want to employ older workers, they want to employ younger people for a reason. So this is becoming, again, a real pinch point. And the Select Committee are a little bit critical of the government, saying they've not been looking at the evidence base, they've not done any research. I think since around 2015, I think was the last time. I think I remember reading that, but something around then. It's been a while, and the government is still relying on old evidence. They're saying they should do more. But one of the big things they say is, again, sort of touching on about the auto-enrollment and the intention for that, there doesn't seem to be an overarching policy intent for the state pension. And I have said this before, when looking at the triple lock, which has been around for a while now, and was there originally to achieve a political aim to not give small state pension increases, and it's now turned into this sort of untouchable political behemoth. But is that the right way to set what the standard level of state pension should be? What is state pension trying to do? What standard of living is that trying to give? And I feel like that is still a conversation we need to have. Whether the Pensions Commission might touch on this, not sure. We've got the Dr. Susie Morrissey review of sort of longevity and state pension, without touching it as well. Probably not in the remit of that report, but it does seem an important question as a nation. The debate around state pensions, if you look into the cesspit that is X, and I assume other social medias where state pensions is discussed, it's an incredibly divisive topic and really hard to discuss in a reasonable way, because you'll have people that say the state pension is there as, it's almost a poverty barrier, and that's always been my understanding when the new state pension, inverted commas, new state pension was put in around about 10 years ago. It was there to act as a poverty barrier, and people were expected to save on top. But if not, then you get that, and maybe housing benefit or some other benefits to support you. Pensions credit, perhaps, as well, is there as a means to support you. But we don't really have this clear understanding, and people, rail against it, saying it's not a benefit, it's an entitlement, and it's low compared to other countries, and all these there's a lot of myths going. Okay, it may be low compared to some countries, particularly Scandinavia, where they have higher tax. Top tip: you want higher benefits, pay more tax. But then it's part of a system. So auto-enrollment is a sort of a pseudo state-sponsored pension system that's sitting alongside the state pension. So these things have to be seen in the round, and it's having a grown-up debate about the state pension is really, really difficult. And I don't envy any government having to have that conversation in the public. Okay, I think I'm nearly at 10 minutes. So I will just mention one last thing. It's only on inheritance tax. The government have recently put some more legislation out, tweaking some of the rules around the way inheritance tax is going to work from next year. It's part of my job is trying to understand this and make sure that we can all do it right. And it feels like it's going to be a an ever-changing feast over the next few months as little tweaks here and there, tweaks around, what evidence you need for a personal representative or a prospective personal representative and all this other stuff. If you're a trustee listening to this, I don't envy you having to listen to us talk to you about it because it's tricky. But if you do want to talk to me, drop me a line. Happy to talk to you about inheritance tax anytime you like. Okay, I think I'm pretty much done for this week. I wish you a good week ahead. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Pensions in 10. Don't forget you can go onto our website and find the page, and you can subscribe and get these in your inbox on Wednesday. If you see it on LinkedIn, if you got this far, you've got to give me a like. Just give me a little like. It takes you like 2 seconds. Just give me a little like. Anyway, nothing unedifying begging for likes. Anyway, I'm not ashamed. All right, thank you all, and I'll see you next time.